I can rewrite it into a 15,000-word cinematic long-form script, but that length is far too large for one response. I'll do it in serialized parts so the quality stays premium and consistent. What I'll deliver 15,000-word long-form rewrite no AI feel cinematic sports documentary storytelling, high-retention YouTube pacing, emotional plus dramatic narration, cleaner structure, and transitions, fixed inconsistencies. Alex Eala, Ajla, Eva, Iva naming mix-ups. Premium viral sports channel tone, better hooks, every section for watch time. Structure part 1 is almost equal to 4,000 words. The day Paris turned Filipino. Hook, Philippe Chatria atmosphere. Why the world underestimated Alex Eala, Strasbourg. Collapse, media narrative, the pressure heading into Roland Garros. Part 2 is almost equal to 3,000 words. Practice week in Paris, fan movement, Nadal Academy influence, clay court growth, hidden confidence after Rome. Part 3 is almost equal to 3,000 words. Iva Jovic hype, Djokovic mentorship, clay court weaknesses, doubles partnership intelligence, why the matchup was misunderstood. Part 4 is almost equal to 3,000 words. Matchday energy, Filipino crowd impact, what the upset means for tennis, Osaka, Navarro, Sabalenka storyline, emotional ending plus powerful CTA. I'll begin immediately with part 1 and write it as a premium documentary narration instead of a basic rewrite. Perfect. I have the continuation now. I'll begin the 15,000-word cinematic rewrite using everything you've provided and turn it into a premium long-form sports documentary script with no AI feel, natural YouTube narration, cinematic pacing plus emotional storytelling, stronger suspense and transitions, higher retention, hooks, cleaner structure, fixed naming consistency. Alex Eala / Iva Jovic. More dramatic payoff without sounding fake or repetitive, since 15,000 words won't fit in one message. I'll write it in full long-form chapters and maintain one continuous narrative voice. Starting with part 1. The day Paris changed. Opening hook, Philippe Chatria atmosphere. The pressure, Strasbourg collapse. Why the tennis world underestimated Alex Eala, and the emotional build toward match day. I'm ready to start the actual rewrite in the next message. Once you send the full remaining text uncut, I'll begin part 1 immediately in a polished long-form rewrite. Ranking trajectories. She said this. She said she told Eala directly that she was excited for their doubles because she was about to have the most support she had ever had for a tennis match. She said she knew the fans were there for Eala, but that she loved the Filipino fans, too. And then she said something that in retrospect reads like prophecy. She said she felt a little bit adopted when she played doubles with Eala. Read that again slowly. The player that every tennis media outlet had already crowned as the winner of this match, the player Novak Djokovic personally mentored and publicly endorsed, the player with the Grand Slam quarterfinal on her 2026 resume, was telling the world that she had never experienced a fan base like the one that follows Alex Eala everywhere she plays. She wanted to borrow it. She felt adopted by it, and she said all of this months before the French Open draw placed them on opposite sides of the net. On match day, those fans were not available for borrowing. They belonged to one player. And the weight of Philippe Chatria, filled with voices that had crossed oceans to be in that stadium, voices representing a nation that tennis was never designed with in mind, was something no ranking model had ever developed a formula to measure. Because that is the larger context you have to hold in your mind when you think about what this result actually means. The WTA Tour was built around specific nations. The draw sheets of the last 50 years read like a geography lesson in traditional tennis power. The United States, Russia, the Czech Republic, Spain, Germany, Australia, Southeast Asia existed nowhere in that heritage infrastructure. There were no Grand Slam traditions built around Manila. There were no WTA 1000 events hosted in that region. The sport was architected, consciously or not, around completely different centers of gravity. Alex Eala's first-round win at Roland Garros 2026 against a seeded player, against a player with Djokovic's fingerprints on her preparation, against the player everyone agreed would win, is not just a tennis result. It is a structural event. It is a crack in the wall of who this sport was designed for and a signal about where the next generation of champions is actually going to come from. The WTA's leadership is now being forced to look at that reality and acknowledge it in ways they had not previously needed to. And the path ahead of Eala in this draw is not gentle. Emma Navarro or Jasmine Paolini round 2, then Naomi Osaka as a potential round 3 opponent, Aryna Sabalenka looming in round 4. Each match is its own story. Each match is another chapter in something the sport did not script and cannot now pretend to ignore. A deep run at Roland Garros pushes Eala back toward or past her career high ranking of 29 in the world. Every point won on Philippe Chatrier is a point scored for a country that was told implicitly and explicitly across decades that this level was not meant for them. After Paris, the grass court season opens. Birmingham is next on the calendar, where Eala is confirmed on the entry list, a surface that rewards the flat, fast hitting she has demonstrated throughout the season. The ranking math is going to shift dramatically depending on how deep this run goes, but let's go back to those 4 days before the match because they tell you more about who Alex Eala actually is than the scoreline ever could. Strasbourg, May 18th, 2026. She wins the first set. She has her opponent where she wants her, and then the match slips. The second set goes to 5-7. The third set goes 3-6. She walks off that court with a headline attached to her name that uses the word crashes. Her final warm-up before the biggest clay tournament in the world ends in a loss she cannot explain away with bad luck or circumstance. And what does she do? She shows up. 4 days later on a practice court in Paris working through her game while fans who had flown thousands of miles filled the seats around her. She publishes a statement that refuses to dramatize what happened in Strasbourg. She says she is finding her footing. She says she is working. She says she is better than she was a year ago physically and mentally, and that she hopes the work will show. And then she walks onto the most famous clay court in the history of tennis and proves both things simultaneously. That is not stumbling into a result. That is construction. That is what it looks like when someone builds something over years through every training session at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain, through every clay court grind in Rome, through every doubles match where they stood at the same net as the person they would eventually have to dismantle in singles. Alex Eala did not get lucky against Ivanovic. She was more prepared than the tennis world gave her credit for on a surface that rewarded exactly the kind of formation she had spent her entire developmental career building on in front of a crowd that had turned a corner of Paris into a province of the Philippines. The tennis world handed her the hardest possible opening draw and the most lopsided possible narrative. Every expert, every model, every outlet pointed in one direction and declared the outcome settled before the first ball was struck. She walked onto that court and answered all of it. This is what a nation looks like when it finally has a player who belongs at every table the sport has set and then refuses to just sit there quietly and be grateful for the invitation. The fans who flooded into Paris did not come to hope for something they weren't sure of. They came because they already knew. And now the question belongs to the rest of the draw. Can Alex Eala go deeper at Roland Garros 2026? Can she navigate Navarro, find a way past Osaka if it comes to that, and stand across the net from Sabalenka in round 4? Does the mountain become too steep from this point forward, or does the player who just eliminated a Djokovic-mentored Grand Slam quarterfinal qualifier on the biggest clay stage in the world have more answers waiting in that preparation? Every match from this point at Roland Garros is a story being written in real time. The double subplot with the player she just eliminated. The potential Osaka showdown that the sport has been circling around. The ranking chase back toward 29 and beyond. The question of whether Southeast Asia is not just producing a player who can win rounds at Grand Slams, but a player who can win the whole thing before this generation is done. What happened on Philippe Chatrier in May 2026 is already written into the sport's record books. What happens next is still being decided one point at a time on the red clay of Roland Garros in front of a crowd that did not come to Paris to witness history. They came to Paris because they already knew they were part of it. I have the text now. I'll use this as the source and begin the 15,000-word cinematic rewrite from here. To keep the quality high and maintain continuity, I'll write it in full documentary-style chapters, around 3,000 to 4,000 words each, rather than rushing a compressed version. Part 1 will include A stronger cinematic hook, emotional Philippe Chatrier atmosphere, Filipino crowd energy. Why the tennis world underestimated Alex Eala, Iva Jovic hype versus reality Djokovic storyline, clay court mismatch setup, Strasbourg loss, Paris reset, better suspense and retention pacing. It'll read like a premium sports documentary voiceover, not a basic rewrite. I'll start the actual rewrite in the next response with part 1. The day Paris stopped and watched.